So today I'm going to show you a little bit about some tools and the first coat of plaster, which I call scratch coat because you scratch the texture in. But there'll be a few more videos after this one. This is real simple. Hopefully you've seen how we've repaired the lath video and made some repairs and then installed some new lath. And then the next one was mixing the plaster itself. Just a few little tips I couldn't find on other videos. And then this one is real simple. It's about tools, using it, and just a few techniques. Now, I'm not a professional plasterer. This is not what I do for a living. This is what I do for fun. This is my house. It's getting colder. So I have a huge project here. And so my first goal was to get the plaster on the walls and seal all the walls as the winter's coming in. I'm not taking the time to do the scratch coat, the base coat, and the veneer coat all at one time because I have such a big house to take care of and close in. So with that said, by putting on this scratch coat, I can come back at a later date. While the next two coats, I really need some additional help. Most of it I'm doing by myself. So with the additional help, I can get somebody to mix the plaster for me, bring it in to me, and whatever I might need, because I want to try to get a large area done quickly. And those guys that are professionals, some of them will show you their rendering videos, which is awesome. They'll render out a whole wall or a ceiling, and it seems like they're doing it by themselves, and that's fine, but it's already been done one time. So everything's usually already flat, everything's gotten a surface. So these are some things that I've found along the way, and I hope that you get something out of them. If you do, that's great. If you have something to add, put it in the comments. Everybody will appreciate it. Okay, so that said, I'm going to go over some simple tools. This is a Darby. It's an aluminum Darby. I think they call it a pipe Darby. Maybe it's because you can slide underneath a pipe. Not sure. It's 42 inches long. It's made by Marshalltown. I was quickly disappointed when I got this one because when I got it, it came bent. It is a soft aluminum, so I did take and bend it back and got it pretty daggone straight. It's straight enough for what I'm doing, and I think maybe a different alloy might be good, but for what I'm doing, this is good. I'm not a professional, so a novice such as myself, I'm enjoying the process. And this is probably going to get me close enough. I think if it was trying to get it longer, like an 8-foot straight edge or screed, I would really need for it to be pretty accurate. But for this application, this is working for me. It's really light, and it's easy to maneuver, and I'll show you that in a little bit here. This is a Hawk. This one's a Nella, and it's a 14-inch one. I had a Marshalltown one that was a 12-inch, and I found that I could really use a lot more plaster and putting that on. So I want to talk about a few of the tools that I use. Trowels, I got different sizes. I think you could probably buy 30 of them and still not have enough. So I wanted to try and buy some basic ones. They cost anywhere from $20 to $50 a piece. And what I've found, some of the biggest differences in the trowels themselves is that if you get a stainless steel trowel, that it will be stainless, while if you just get a simple metal one, this one's Marshalltown, well, both are Marshalltown. So look for them. This is just plain old blue steel, and it will rust. I don't know. I've seen somebody taking and sticking them in Pepsi or Coca-Cola and then pulling them out, and then that kind of gives them a bluing again. But I find that every time I use them, I wash them, I store them dry, but they do rust. So you got to take some time in prepping them before you start back into using them. This is called a midget trowel, and it's used for getting into small areas, like in here. Same thing, just a little bit longer. This one has a wood handle. I have some that have cork handles. Cork's nice. This long skinny one lets me get like over doors and windows, and yet it still allows me to get into some spaces. A little bit shorter, obviously narrower. This trowel here, I like this one. This is my workhorse. It's a Marshalltown. It's nice and long. I think it's 14 inches. And let me see here. Yep, 14-inch trowel. What I like about that is the first hawk that I bought, that's a hawk. This one's cork handled. It's by Nella Tools. The first hawk I bought was a Marshalltown, and it was 12 inches. And I found out that if I scoop on the plaster and then get it on my trowel, that there wasn't enough. And I really wanted to load this up to get it on quick. And so I bought a 14-inch trowel, and I think it's 14 inch by 5, and then a 14-inch hawk. And I found that really helped me get a lot more material on the wall faster. There's a couple of different kinds of scoops. This one's real simple. Can't see who made this. Marshalltown. It conforms to the side of a bucket, which works well for me. If you look at Kirk Giordano videos, you'll see that he's scooping, and his scoop has sides. I think that might be nice to have. I just chose to use this one, and I'm okay with this one here. And then when it comes to the hawks, this one is aluminum. I had 2 of them. The first one came and it had bent, and there was no way I could use it. So the manufacturer, the distributor, quickly replaced it. I was very satisfied with that. But these tools here, you need to take care of them, not just throw them in the back of a truck. You will bend them, and you can't get them back out. So you need to take some time. This is a scratching comb. I don't know who makes this one. And once you get the material on, then you can scratch it and put some texture in there. And so that's some of the basic tools that I'm going to use for this particular video. And let's get right into it. So when I'm applying this, the first thing you do is key the plaster in. And you'll see that what I'm doing is I'm putting the material onto the hawk and then troweling it in and on the lath. That process of pushing it through those slits in the lath is called keying. It mushrooms out and it gives it a nice mechanical bond to the lath. You'll see me do that, but then you see me come back. So here I am. I've come back and I've looked at. I've already applied the first few feet of plaster into the lath, and then I put the Derby on and realized that I had some shallow spots or some valleys. I call them mountaintops or mountain peaks and valleys. So if I have a mountaintop, that's easy to use the Derby and get the top of the mountain off. But in order to fill in the valley, you've got to put more in. So here I am putting in more plaster. It looks like I'm putting plaster on top of plaster. It's the same 50-pound bag. And so when I put that on, I'm trying to get everything leveled out as fast as I possibly can, and then I'm doing it as I go. I find that one 50-pound bag will cover about 3 feet by 5 feet if I'm going to put it in anywhere from 3/8 to a 1/2 inch thick. That's taking into account a lot of material is being wasted by being keyed into the lath. And then in addition to that, it really depends on how thick you make your material. If you make it thick, it's going to be hard to key it in to the lath. If you make it thin and soupy, then it's going to make it hard to get it onto the lath. And then it just pushes right through the slat and makes it impossible to key. So there's a good consistency. If you go back to my last video, you'll see how I mixed it. And as you watch this video, you'll see I'm scooping it out and putting it on this hawk. And when I do, it's called slump in concrete. You'll see the type of thickness by the amount of, I want to say, the peak that it will get when I dump it onto the hawk. So that consistency is going to be by the person and by the application. I'm going to want it thicker on the ceiling. I'm going to want it thinner on the walls. The base coat and the veneer coat is going to be thinner yet, but for this I'm trying to get it to have like a peanut butter consistency, and I want it to go key into the lath, and then I want to be able to cover a large area quickly. So that's about what it covers, about 3 foot by 5 foot, 150-pound bag. So if I'm mixing my own plaster outside, you can do it inside, it's a pretty messy endeavor. If I'm mixing my own plaster outside, then I have to come inside. Then after I come inside, I apply the plaster onto the keyed surface. Then I put the Darby to it, get everything level in that particular application next to the adjoining application. So I go out, mix a bag, come in, that's 2 buckets. Go out, mix a bag, come in, put the 2 buckets on. Go out, mix the bag, and repeat this. So when I do that and I get to the point where I've gotten through the whole wall, once I've finished that, I turn back and scratch coat it in, and then that's good for the next application, but I don't need to rush on into that. So another important thing is, as I'm going through, I'm keeping my tools clean all the time. Many times I'll have a bucket with water inside the house, and then it depends on that day. Sometimes I just leave everything outside. So I'm going outside and mixing the plaster, but I'm also rinsing all my tools, keeping everything clean, and then the buildup doesn't happen on all the surfaces. And then right before I start in, I wet everything. I put some plaster on, put that back off. That creates a vacuum for the next coat so it doesn't just slide off. Same thing goes for the trowels. Keeping your tools clean and neat, it's a good habit, but it makes for a less messy work. And especially when you're using the Darby will have a tendency of dragging, so I try to keep that wet and try to keep it clean, and then I can get it slicker as I go. I'm not trying to get a slick finish as I'm going. All I'm trying to do is make it level and flat. The flatter that I can get the first coat, the scratch coat, the flatter I can get that, the less material I'll use in the base coat and then also in the veneer coat. So the less material I'm using means that I can go farther with the material, and I can also go faster with it. That's pretty important considering it's just me. For getting the base coat and the veneer coat flatter, I use something similar to the Darby. It's called a skimming spatula. OX makes some, Marshalltown, pretty much everybody does, Neela. But when I put that material on it, it has to have a different property rather than the Darby. The Darby's just for getting it flat. The skimming tools is for getting it flat and slick, and that's pretty important. When I put this scratch coat on, I've got a little more time than I do with the base coat and the veneer. Because I'm creating a mechanical bond by using the scratching tool, scratching comb, then the next coat will really stick to this coat. So that said, it's going to be a process where I'm going to wet this scratch coat so that it doesn't immediately suck all the moisture out of that base coat. And then the other thing I want to do is create suction. So I do want to create the suction, but I don't want to completely dry out the next coat. So I'm going to wet this scratch coat, and we'll talk about that further in the next video. We're going to wet this coat. So when I'm putting on this scratch coat, one of the things that I'm looking at is how long it takes to dry. Of course, temperature, humidity is all going to be a factor. When I'm putting on this scratch coat, I'm using Structolite. I'm finding that it's going to take anywhere from 2 hours to a whole day to dry. So if I was really into a rush, I could put an accelerant in, which is sold separately. But I'm just trying to get the scratch coat on all of my lath to close my house in. So that's not so important for me. But I do find that it takes a few hours to a day to dry. One of the things that I'm not showing, which could make the job go faster, is a cheater board. If you watch Kirk Giordano or Plastering for Beginners, they'll sometimes use cheater boards. A cheater board is a larger sheet of plywood, and they'll get almost 20 pounds of plaster in and scoop it on and wipe it on the wall in one fell swoop, and they just cover so much area instantly. This is one of those cases where by working by myself, I don't use the cheater board because many times the way that they're applying it is they set up some sawhorses, they lay down a sheet of plywood, you've got somebody else mixing the plaster, they dump the plaster on your board, and then you use that cheater board and just fill up the plaster and then apply it on the wall. Because I don't have anybody mixing for me, I can't do all that and clean it all up efficiently enough to make it worth it. So the process that I use is that I first clean my tools, then I mix my plaster, I apply it and key it into the lath. I use the Darby and fill in the valleys. I then touch up any spots, Darby it again, and I'm trying to Darby make the flat to the surfaces above, below, or beside where I'm just now applying it. And then I repeat. Once I've done, then I scratch coat everything. Hey, if you've enjoyed this video, I hope that you keep watching. We've got a couple more. We're going to be doing those as we go through this house. The next one's going to be the base coat with the veneer, and then we'll get into putting some finishes on with organic colorants or earth tone pigments mixed into a lime wash, or doing some Venetian plastering. Stick around for those. If you like us, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe. It really helps us out.